Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher. So let's jump right into it. We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on YouTube? It's Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and I am bringing on a living legend in the comic book industry, and I can't wait to have him on the channel. Before we get started, like always, guys, I would remind you, if you're not a current subscriber of the channel, do me a favor, click that subscribe button, tap the hell out of that like button. Hell, even share this video out there with everyone in the community. So before I bring the great Steve Borock on, I want to introduce somebody who's been on my channel a ton. So say hello to Errol. How are you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm back
guess
again.
What? I hit the wrong button, so Steve's here too. It's all good. It's, okay. It's all good.
Hey, we're all here.
So again, thank you both of you guys for joining me. This has been like a little bit in the making. We went back and forth for the past week or so, trying to find a good time. And Steve shared some awesome stuff with me that we're going to be sharing with you guys today as well. But welcome, Errol. Welcome, Steve. How are you guys?
No, I'm doing good.
I'm doing fantastic. I always love talking comics and comic art.
It's gonna be a good day.
I agree. Like when Errol and Steve are good friends. So if anybody out there doesn't know, they've known each other for quite a long time. So when Errol came to me and said, "Hey, Steve is willing to come on the show, talk some comics," I was like, I was doing like cartwheels. So my wife would tell you if she was on the show.
Oh man, any friend of Errol's, I'll help out, man.
Thanks,
you
man.
know?
Thanks.
And you're a comic fanatic, so this, it's great. Yeah. We just get
to
talk.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is like non-formal. We're going to have a great conversation today about comics, about, of course, how Steve got into the industry, all his tidbits of information, what he likes, what he doesn't like. Everything is on the table if it's relating to comics. So you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Ready. So, Steve, tell us a little bit like where you started, how you got into the industry. I know you've been in it for quite a while now.
Yeah, almost all my life. I got really lucky. My father used to bring home from New York City when he was commuting to Long Island. He'd stop at the newsstand and pick me up some DC comics or Archie comics. It's what he knew and what he liked when he was growing up. So before I could even read, I was getting comic books, and it evolved to where, I was reading, and I was a terrible student, but I had a better vocabulary than the other kids because I knew what an, ultimate nullifier was. I knew the words ultimate and nullify, right? But then like when I was 12, or 13, set up at my first Phil Suling show. It was a marketplace one Sunday every month. It was in a disgusting hotel. People were smoking cigarettes, just around the comics, which weren't bagged and boarded, and ashes were dropping into these crates that they had the comics in and stuff. And you could smell the marijuana back then. It was crazy.
Sounds like my kind of show.
What are you doing? He's smoking that wacky weed over there.
It was the 70s in Manhattan,
Yeah.
But that was crazy. I really enjoyed myself a lot because I was able to sell enough to buy one comic, right? And put a little bit of scratch in my pocket, so I'd buy like Tales of Suspense 57, which I didn't get. So I was really happy. Back then it was like near mint, $5, and today it would be a VF minus, I'm sure, but I loved it. It was just being a kid, being able to get the first Hawkeye,
Yeah.
But then I had a misspent youth. I followed the Grateful Dead around the country and supported myself by selling comic books here and there. And then later in life, I was buying and selling. I became one of the largest collectors of DC and Golden Age. I owned the More Fun 52 Mile High at one point, which was the first comic to ever sell for that kind of money, cash, not trading cash. Yeah, I was leaving on the plane, and I was like, $115,000 for this comic or a house. I mean, it was way before certification. Yeah. And when the Certified Collectibles Group was looking for somebody to head up the comic division, they went to the top collectors and top dealers and asked who they trusted, who could grade, who could tell restoration, who has a good reputation, who's friendly with people. And after, I guess, they looked at all the people, they picked me.
I got a
And
quick question, Steve. Sorry to cut you off. The restoration wise, like back in that part of time when you were like, say, restoration wise, was it frowned upon like back then as is today? It's the same thing?
not as early as when I started,
Yeah.
but by the mid '80s, my friends and I were looking for untouched books, and since we
Okay.
were spending quite a bit of money,
Yeah.
it kind of trickled down to other people looking for untouched books. But before that, there was a real push to restore all your books by the community, the leaders of the community. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. You saw ads for,
Yeah.
restore this book, but they were trimming them. Like Cyril was
Oh.
trimming the books and stuff, and
Yeah.
he was definitely uh, somebody who was what's the best word for it? Innovator, restoring comic books, and he taught a lot of people. But nowadays you look at the prices, and if I want an Action Comics #1 in 9.0, I'm going to have to pay a few million, and if I want it in 9.0 restored, I might be able to buy it for 500,000, right?
Yeah.
The only two Action ones I ever owned were had a little bit of work, not a lot, but a little bit. One ended up with Nicolas Cage, and one ended up with Charlie Sheen.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't sell it directly to them. That was brokered. Yeah.
Wow.
Robert Govin from Four Color Comics, great guy. He brokered one of them.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Really?
So
That's
back to what you were saying, you were picked, you were hand chosen.
Right. So I was worried though that it might be a scam. But my friends were getting ripped off like crazy on eBay. Always, every interview I've ever done, I called it that it was the Wild West, right? You didn't know what you were going to get. Pages were missing, undisclosed restoration, horrible grading. Sometimes they wouldn't take returns back then because eBay was different in 99, 98. But they said I could pick my own crew and set the standards my way. And I didn't want to do Steve Borock's grading standards. So I went to the top dealers and a lot of the top collectors and had them grade the same group of books. And there was things like Gaines file copies in there, and there was books missing pages or back cover. There was fines, everything. And so I picked Mark Haspel as my second in command. It was really funny too. He's such an honest and knowledgeable person, and young. I couldn't think of anybody to be better. But then the bosses called me and they were like, well, we got some guys in New York that are saying he's not good. And I'm like, yeah, that's because they can't buy him off. We had to make this legitimate. It was really important. So I got rid of all of my comics, so nobody would say that Steve Borock was grading theirs lower because I had a better one. I had at one point the Flash 1 Mile High, and my more fun collection was insane, mostly Mile Highs and San Francisco's and things like that. And so I wanted to protect the hobby, and Mark was a great guy, and we set the standards based on our knowledge and based on the dealers and collectors too. So we averaged everything out, and it wasn't perfect at first. Nothing's perfect, but it was really good. And once pieces started selling, especially after the Greg Manning auction, where things went for like 10 times guide, we were set. We had a great run, but I was getting burned out, and I needed to do something else besides sit at a desk and grade. And I was going to less conventions and doing less PR, and, some of the fun stuff. especially meeting other collectors, right? Which is, my favorite part of the hobby. And so I went and sold some comics for about a year, just hanging out. And then a bunch of people kept asking me if I'd come on board and work with them. I decided on Heritage, where I brought in, the Maggie Thompson collection, the Pedigree.com collection, the McFarlane pieces for the Seamuses, and the Miracle Man stuff, and so much great material. It's really funny. If you don't mind a sidebar, when I brought in the Miracle Man stuff to Heritage, and I promised the guy the cover for the 15 cover, the crazy cover, they were all like, "What did you do? You made on this modern thing." And I was like, "Look, we got to do it. I put it in writing, right?" Yeah. And so then it went gangbusters, of course. And then I got the Seamus collection, and I promised them the cover with the Spider-Man #1 McFarlane cover.
Wow.
And they were like, "What are you doing? You're bringing in all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." And I promised them the cover and full pages. And then, of course, we saw one of them went for what, 647,000?
Herb Trimp one, last page, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If that page,
no, it was the cover for Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man with the Hulk.
If that page from 180 went for sale today, Steve, the last page from Herb Trimp, what do you think it could go for today?
Oh, I have no clue. I mean, the market on original art has exploded. People understand that it's so much rarer than comic books, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
My first love was comic books, but once I started with CGC, I started collecting original comic art, and I fell in love with it. I've made a lot of great friends in the hobby, that collect, that stuff too. But that would go for a lot of money today. Much more than it went for.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so then I got a chance to open CBCS. A gentleman came to me and said he had all the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, he had the money to open it, and we were gangbusters for 3 years, but he didn't understand that it takes forever to make money. And he was draining money. It took CGC 5.5 years to make money, I think. And he wanted out. We sold to Beckett. I got kind of screwed, but I had to move to Texas as well, which was even worse, move away from my family. But when Beckett took over, I wasn't real happy with what was going on. And not that they're not a good company. They are. I mean, they have Wes Steffen and Steve Ricketts, all these great people. I think it's more the upper echelon that doesn't understand that they need the hobby. The hobby doesn't need them. But we really do in the hobby need 2 legitimate certification services because monopolies stink. So anyway, I left there, went to my comic shop, which I was having a great time with. Buddy Saunders is a legend in this hobby with Lone Star in my comic shop. Judy is just the most wonderful person, and their son Conan is a genius. I loved working with them, but I was missing my kids so much, and Pam and I just missed the house that we have. We were renting out, and so we made a decision, and they wanted somebody in-house. And as I mentioned to you gentlemen before, all I need is a computer, pen, paper, a phone, and I can do deals, make flights to go see deals, make flights to go see conventions. But I understand where they were coming from, and they were lovely. I mean, they gave me a beautiful plaque when I left with a picture of us, and
that's great.
To a good friend. I mean, it was beautiful. They totally understood family. I mean, I'm going to be 60 next year. I want to enjoy my family too, as well as the comics. So Josh Nathanson, owner of Comiclink and founder, he's brilliant. We've been great friends for almost 30 years now. My daughter calls him Uncle Josh. She's been doing that since she was a kid. We always wanted to work together, and the stars never aligned, right? And when I was talking to him about, coming back home, he was like, okay. And then he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. um, and I love Josh. He's very honest. He's a good family man, and he loves the hobby. And it's nice because he doesn't have a buyer's premium, right?
Yeah.
So when you're bidding, you can bid up to the full amount you want, and we only charge 10%. So it works out really well. We have some crazy sales that beat GPA, but we don't share our information. It's very important that we keep it to ourselves.
Do you think the buyer's premium hurts? Do you think the buyer's premium hurts the business, Steve? The buyer's premium being so high?
Well, think about it, right? If I want a piece for $10,000, let's say, I'm going to bid 8.
Yeah.
Because I have to pay 20% on top of it.
That's right.
I'm not going to bid 10.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's the fee, right? And so that's on top of the buyer's premium.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So the only time we have a buyer's premium is if you use a credit card, and that's 3% because we work on 10%. We can't afford to eat 3.
Yeah.
So for anybody out there who watches my channel who doesn't know, when I got into collecting, like way back into collecting, I should say, way back when I graduated college around 2000, Comiclink was one of the first things that I actually went to kind of try to buy and sell comic books. Because of that, like as Steve said, it's always been 10%. And we're talking 23 plus years. It's always been 10%. And back then, I don't know if it's still the same now. Like when you list a book on Comiclink, you have an option to either keep the book in your home, and then if it sells, send it to them, or you could send it to them ahead of time. Is that still the case?
It's a little different. You have it right. That's on the exchange.
Yes.
Where you can list the books yourself or the art yourself. Yes. And you can set a price and take best offer or ask for best offer, not take it if it's not right. But if you're going to consign, we need to have it in-house. It's very important. We need to make sure that the piece looks right, the holder's not broken, the art's original, it's not a fake, things like that. It works really, really well for them. And I should say for us now. But I followed Josh's career since he started, and I knew right away that he was smart, he was honest, he loved the hobby. So we became best friends. I went to his wedding. I've met his kids. We talk all the time, even though we didn't have any business to do. He's a great guy. Douglas, the vice president, has been a friend of mine now for years. Another guy, he's a wealth of information, and he's just wonderful. I'm really happy to be working with this crew. I could have went back to Heritage. And Jim Halpern is such a great friend and a great guy, but there's just so many people there, and I didn't want to get lost in the mix. And I felt I could do much more for Comiclink than I could do for Heritage at this point in time. I mean, I did a lot for Heritage back in the day. I mean, I brought in $6 million of their first $10 million auction, right? And now they're having $50 million auctions or whatever. But it was great. But all the guys that I worked with are now like vice presidents and stuff. And it's different,
So a question that I desperately wanted to ask you, because I think a lot of collectors out there now, with the euphoria that happened a couple of years ago, 2020, 2021 with COVID, and the market going the where it went for comics, what are your thoughts on the market now? And, I think a lot of collectors are panic selling a little bit. So I wanted to hear what you thought about how it was, how it is now, and maybe your thoughts on what collectors should do if they're in certain spots.
Well, the first thing they should do is not really invest like it's the stock market. Speculate on a movie that might come out. I mean, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, right? But, I have always found out, and I've learned through the years through other collectors and my friends that are sellers that also collect. When you buy what you love and you can afford it, you end up so well in the long run. You buy stuff you don't like, it sits there. If it doesn't go up, you get angry. If it goes down,
Absolutely.
right now we're having a correction when the market's not dropping. It's a little soft on late silver and bronze because, well, eventually a lot got graded and there's a decent amount around. And when you add pressing into the mix, you get higher grades. And so I've always seen corrections in the hobby about 5 times over my collecting journey, if you will. But everything stabilizes. But junk is junk, right? And it's also the other problem that I see and I've watched is that people covet what they know, right? What we grew up with, what we liked as a kid or what we like now. Some of us, like you, Errol, myself, graduated out of that into finding older books and wanting to learn more about the hobby and the artists, all this fun stuff, right? But only about 10% of us graduate. The rest kind of get either ripped off by certain dealers or whatever and they kind of just say, I'm gone, man. This is not good. And then some of them just get into the investing like we talked about. And then you're playing stocks. The only place we win 100% of the time is Fantasyland. We don't live there, Nobody wins 100% of the time.
No.
So I think we're just seeing a correction. I mean, I can throw a rock at a convention and hit, a Hulk 181. It might not be a 9.8, but everybody seems to have one, right? If it's a 0.5 or a 5.0 or 9.6 or whatever. But, you throw a rock at a convention and try to find like a high grade or even mid-grade, more fun 55 or 54. I mean,
you're not gonna find it. No.
So when I got the Nova Scotia 54, it's my favorite Spectre cover. That was fantastic. When Dad found the Nova Scotia collection. He gave me first shot. He said he owed me some favors, so I flew up there. And I spent, at that time, way before certification, I spent $90,000 on books. It was crazy. I felt like a kid in a candy store. It was my first fettery that I got to see firsthand.
That's awesome.
And got first choice. I loved it. It was great. There was so many great books. He wouldn't sell me the Superman 1. He had a collector friend for it. And I was kind of bummed because I didn't have a Superman 1 yet. So
now here's a big question though, Steve. How much was he asking for that book back then?
The Superman 1, I think it was $10K.
Oh, what was the condition of it?
I think it was like a 5.
Oh,
yeah.
Could you imagine what is a 5.0 now? It's got to be what, 750?
800,
easy.
Yeah, easy.
It's anywhere from $500,000 to 750, I guess I should say. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the price in a while. I haven't been offered one in a year. So,
do you still go out and buy comics now?
I buy trades because I love the comics. And I travel a lot, and that's when I get to really read on the plane. And it's so much easier to have the trade in your hand. It also wakes me up when I fall asleep. It falls on my foot. It's not like a comic. So that helps. I love comics. I mean, I just put a deposit down on a beautiful piece by Jay Lee. Black and white, he did for a poster. It's Mervyn Pumpkinhead from Sandman holding Sandman's helmet, and Lucian's kind of flipping out the librarian. It is beautiful, and the gentleman was so nice. He gave me 8 months to pay it off.
That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't that expensive where I needed 8 months. But it helped because we just moved and we're spending a lot of money on the house, and I hadn't bought a piece of art in a while. And this is just, something I want for me.
Yeah.
That's how it goes sometimes. You gotta bite the bullet and say, I need this. This is one thing it's gotta do for myself.
Yep. Make it personal, yeah, for yourself. Exactly. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people are buying stuff that they shouldn't be buying, and then I'm going, you do it the wrong way, my friend.
Yeah.
You're making it stressful for yourself, and if it causes stress, then you're not in there for the love of it. You just want to
The-
make, everyone wants to make money. It's just the nature of the beast, right? But
Oh,
when it comes
sure. I mean, we all hope it goes up
Sure.
in value, but it's usually a
Sure.
3 to 5 year hold.
at least
People
Minimum,
don't
I would think.
understand that. We have
Mhm.
flippers in the hobby, and they're making money,
right. Flippers, it's
right? But
Yeah.
they're not. Most of them are not true collectors. Some of them are.
No.
They're just flipping to, pay for their
Yeah.
comics. It's what I did
Yeah.
as a kid, setting up
Yep.
at Phil Suling. I mean, I
Yep.
made $30,
Mhm.
but I was able to buy that Tales of Suspense, 57, and still had like $10 in my pocket,
I know. When I call them fake collectors, they all get all hot headed. I go, well, it is what it is. I said, it's if that's how you collect, that's fine. But no offense, but if you buy because you want it, then keep it. But if you're making it to make extra $10 here, $20 there, it's too much work. It's just too much.
It is a lot of work.
You don't get me wrong, though. I've found pieces that were very undervalued,
Mm-hmm.
Bought them and flipped them.
Yeah,
But, it was to buy more comic books.
sure. Because you're in it for the long haul. Yeah.
Now, Steve, do you have like a favorite character or group of characters that you enjoyed as a kid and as a young adult and still do now?
Wow, it changed a lot. I mean, I was a Captain America fanatic as a kid, right? And my first high grade timelies I wanted were Captain America's or All Winners. I mean, All Select One is one of my favorite timelies,
Wow.
As I got older, the stories meant a lot. And if you go back to, like, say, Captain America 155 when I was a kid, it was the communist Captain America and Bucky that come back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve Englehart was, brilliant writer. But then as I got older, I got into in my late teens, things like Star Slayer, Warp. I mean, First Comics was great. Comico. We had Rocketeer, Ms. Tree. I mean, really neat stuff. And I didn't collect it. I just read it. But then later in life, Vertigo came out. Transmetropolitan, one of my favorites. Sandman, of course, is brilliant. I mean, of course, Watchmen blew my mind as well. Dark Knight Returns. I mean, but
That's
it's
one of
really
my favorites.
it's incredible. Miller out. I think it's probably the best thing Miller's ever done. I know
agree.
some Daredevil people are gonna, yell at me. I mean, I think he revamped and revitalized Daredevil and was fantastic. But The Dark Knight was a little special. It was something we'd never seen before.
To me,
But,
till this day, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's one of my favorite Batman stories, and that's to me how I still see Batman now.
Sure, it's crazy. My 4-year-old grandson is running around looking for Batman stuff, and I just gave him a Dark Knight shirt. He's like, "It doesn't look like Batman, puppy." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because he's older here. It's from The Dark Knight Returns." And I had to explain, and I said, "When you're older, I will read it to you." But it's not for kids. But yeah, so I'm into, anything cool that comes along. Like right now, I'm having a great time with Black Hammer. It's Dark Horse. Yeah, it's a really cool spin on superheroes and weirdness on top of it. So it's really cool.
Here's a quick question. I gotta know. Like, I gotta know something. Okay, with Spider-Man, like Peter Parker and all that, as far as the AF-15s, that character just came out 10 years ago, Miles Morales, Ultimate Fallout 4, the prices for that variant cover going for, like, say, 40,000 and 9.8. What is your take on that? Like,
Well, that's the key for the next generation. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like when Hulk 181 came out and it
Mhm.
started to go up really heavily. All of us were looking at that book going, we had it in the dollar bin or the quarter
Yeah.
bin, whatever it was. And that's why it's hard to find high grade because it wasn't worth anything until Giant
Mhm.
Size X-Men took off. And especially once Byrne took over doing Wolverine.
Mhm.
I mean, Claremont, of course,
Yeah. Legend, yeah.
made it explosive, but the combination of Cockrum and uh, uh, Claremont was fantastic, but Byrne blew everybody away.
Sure.
He really did. It just exploded. I think that Ultimate Fallout can be the next generation's Action 1, AF-15, Hulk 181,
Mhm.
if it has legs. We'll
With
see.
the price that it's going so high right now at this time, is it sustainable, or is it just like, it's going to be like the rest of the books where they start pulling back a bit?
Are we talking about the 1 in 25 or the regular one?
Yes, the one at 25.
125.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because now it's like 40,000, 42.
Yeah,
I
there's
said,
40, 44, I think was the last one.
has it
Yeah,
got
but
legs to go?
does anybody know the print
60?
run?
I think that, I don't know, 2,000 or 5. I don't know what it is. It's like in high grade 9.8. It's not rare though. It's like over, I think it's like 150 or 200 copies in 9.8, and
Right.
and I'm
Yeah, I
always
mean,
wondering.
so nobody has a crystal ball. I mean, if
No.
I did, I'd be rich. I just make people rich. I'm not rich. It's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
you know, uh, like when AF-15s. I mean, I was able to buy them in high grade for I don't know, a few $100 when I was young.
Wow.
Nobody
Knew
knew,
it.
but Spider-Man has become just like Captain America or Superman, right, from the Golden Age, has become an iconic character. I mean, my grandson thinks Spider-Man is it, man. He loves Spider-Man and Iron Man.
That's how it goes. I mean, even me, I fell in love with Spider-Man early as a kid, and
Mm.
my youngest is absolutely through the moon about Spider-Man. So,
Isn't it
but
fun?
it is.
Yeah.
It gets better when you have kids. I'll agree with that. Like you get to share
Sure.
everything that you've learned since you were a kid with them.
Yep. I mean, I read my daughter Spider Girl, all the issues, and she loved it. I mean, it was just great sharing, and that's the best part of this hobby is sharing with each other.
Yes.
I've learned from people like this Uber collector, historian, really nice guy, John Burke, turned me on to Chesler books, and I had to buy them. They're the greatest covers. Dynamic and punch was fun, right?
Yeah. John Brooks stuff was just incredible. I mean, I saw the auction on his books. They were like mind blowing on what he had. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was lucky enough to be on like Sotheby's committee. Christie's grading committee with him, and we've had dinners and stuff. Very nice guy, real true collector, and that's what you want.
So
did he just want to get out of the hobby and just cash out, or just this is that's enough? I just want to just sail away in the sunset now with the collection.
I don't know, but as we get older, and I think he's older than I am, and I'll be 60 in June. He might have completed his collection, said, maybe now's the time to sell, retire, whatever. But everybody has different reasons for getting out. I mean, like I said, sometimes they just get chased out. There's some bad guys out there that put these guys to big books and bury them, and or sell them restored books as unrestored, or convince them that Hopalong Cassidy 1 is a good investment, or whatever.
So while I have all these books on the screen, these are books that are actually available right now on Comiclink on their current auction. Is that right, Steve?
That's right. Bidding will be ending a few days, maybe, on the comics, and then the comic art finishes. Oh man, I love that Kirby Hulk. I mean, it is iconic.
I agree.
It's one of the best splashes I've seen in a long time.
We were debating. This is from Hulk 1, right?
3, I think.
Three. Okay.
There we go.
And
These ones
that
are great.
I just sent you over that because I loved it. I mean, Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin, that team is unbelievable. I could have sent, higher priced pieces, but once again, I'm a hobbyist. I looked at this and I was like, gotta have it. Even though I can't afford it,
It's unbelievable. This one, when you sent it to me, I was like,
oh,
holy
crap. This is classic. I mean, it is one of the ultimate covers for EC. It's probably the ultimate Christmas cover for EC. I mean, it's like happy, Merry Christmas, darling.
It's, I mean,
stuff that led to the comics code. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's unbelievable how clean this thing is still after all these years. Just looking at this, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it is an insane piece. I think it's up to almost 100K right now or so.
Yeah.
But it's gonna go big. And this one's exploding. I mean,
that was
it's
incredible.
4.5. I think it's at like 60,000 already.
Yeah.
And the bidding only really happens in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters. So this is crazy.
So let me ask you guys a question, because I'm not sure. I haven't bought from a Comiclink auction. I've only bought off the exchange and sold off the exchange. I know other auctions, like when the time runs out, they give you, like, if somebody bids, you give like another 2 minutes. In Comiclink, is it just end, or is they add additional time?
We wait to see if there's bidding. It says like last call, whatever. And if you don't bid, it's gone. I mean, we don't want people spending, 2 days on auction, one single auction, right?
End it now.
I don't believe in keeping them going.
End it now.
We gotta bid. Let's wait 5 more minutes.
Killing me. My mortgage is gonna kill me.
Yeah. But everybody has their own way of working it. I think Comiclink might be the smartest.
I've been on there for over 10, 12
and
years.
The fairest.
I've been buying from Comiclink for, like I said, 10, 12 years. And every time I go on there, it's like there's such an array of books on there. And the way I do it is I focus on one thing, because if I go like 3, 4 things and my head's going everywhere, you lose track of what you want. And then it's like, but the thing is, not everybody's always looking for what you're looking for. So sometimes you can actually snipe in the side, get it for a steal. And I go, I got that one for a good price.
There's every auction, something falls through the cracks.
Yes.
Right. I mean, no matter how high the bidding goes and things are showing record prices, there's thousands of pieces. But like I said before, you can't win every time, right?
No.
And so something does fall through the cracks. Of course, I feel really bad for the consignor.
Sure.
But I don't try to take in one piece. I tell people, give me 6, 10, 20 pieces.
Yeah.
Some will go over market, some will go for market, and 1 or 2 will go low, but you'll end up with the money that I told you it was worth. That's the key.
Is there a certain book or genre of books that you'd be looking to say someone, hey, I'd kind of go after this book right now, or you kind of tend to stay away from doing that?
When friends ask me for advice, they know it's with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
When we discuss the merits of buying or not buying, holding or not holding.
Yeah.
But when people send me a picture saying, hey, what do you think of this? I go, look, I don't grade from scans. That book is not in my hands. I can't feel it. I can't tell the restoration if there's any. I don't know if pages are missing. I don't know if it's the wrong cover on the right interior. And of course, you can't see everything from a scan unless it's gigantic. And even then, you're not sure the page quality if it's in a holder or whatever. I mean, it could say off-white, but it could be a cream to off-white, or it could be off-white to white, or just off-white. Right? We've all seen, the slim differences sometimes.
Is being a grader for so many years and probably being wanting the people to ask out there, about grading. Is there a book that's come across your desk that you absolutely love grading? That you love to see come across your desk no matter what?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always beautiful books. It's actually the opposite for me. Like when the first Spider-Gwen got hot, right? People were putting them through high tiers. So I was grading, finalizing those. And I was like, man, I don't need to see another one of these, But then All Select 2 hits my desk and I'm like, this is great. Or Sandman #1,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, some people send in classics. They were great for me as a kid because I could write a paper and get out of reading the book. Kids don't do this at home. Anyway, I have no interest in classics whatsoever. I mean, I like some of the covers here and there. The Frankenstein's fantastic. The first one is really cool. The Three Musketeers. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde is a great cover, but it just doesn't do it for me.
Has there been one book though, Steve, that's come into your grading desk and you're going, oh, I got to take a moment here.
That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah, wow.
Because I enjoy the books. But if a great Morphin 54 comes across my desk, terrific 3.
Yeah.
I got lucky enough to be the finalizer on the Suspense 3 Mile High and the Suspense 3 Pennsylvania.
That's the one, yeah.
And neither of the submitters knew that they were the pedigree. We had to tell them.
Really?
And at the time, they sold at auction for the highest price a horror comic ever sold for, both of them.
Wow.
I mean, it's a fantastic, really iconic Schomburg cover, and Schomburg's phenomenal. By the way, it was one of the worst comic books I've ever read. I was so bummed. I got my first one, which was probably like a fair to good, right? And I was so psyched to read it, and it was nothing.
I got jilted. Is this a cover buy for me? It's all it was.
Yeah, it's a brilliant cover. I mean, especially at the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love the I love the war covers before we entered the war. I mean, the comic people entered into the war before America.
Yeah, that's right.
Captain America is punching out Hitler on #1, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To me, that's what drew me into comics as a kid. I know I've told the story a million times, but I don't remember how old I was. Probably 8 years old, and I walked into, I will call it an LCS, but it was a comic shop, maybe about 15 minutes from me, and there weren't many around at that time. So I walked in the shop, and on the wall was an Amazing Spider-Man 1, and people hate on that cover, but to me, I just seeing that Spider-Man going up, I'm like, it was iconic, and I was hooked at that age. So the artwork to me is what first got me hooked.
I think artwork what gets us into it as younger people, because it's we can't read yet, or fully read, right. And I used to like, you guys are gonna hate me about this, but when I was like 5, I would take scissors and I would cut out the characters.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
Well, hopefully either one of you guys didn't have like Tech 27 do that.
I only did it to 3 Tech 27.
Oh man.
No, it was just the books I was buying off the rack, so, I'm sure I, ruined some great books, but at the same time, now they're worth more because I ruined a few.
It was fun doing it though at the time. It's fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we're supposed to enjoy them.
Yes.
Right.
It's like your Star Wars action figures. When my aunt came from New York and she gave me the Darth Vader, C-3PO, and then it had the R2-D2 in the package, I was like so beside myself. My heart was like just racing, just to get those action figures. They're costing $9. $9.
I'm so old that we had bendies, right? And so I had Captain America, and he was really badly painted, The shield
Oh.
was red and plastic. It was in a bubble, and it was just a thin wire, and you bent their arm up,
Yes.
or whatever, or their leg.
Yeah.
But after 2 weeks, it would just break. But that's the toys I had, and I loved them,
Yeah, that's classic. Yeah, we used to have as a kid, my best like Christmas present was Evel Knievel stunt cycle.
That was awesome, right? And it was on the back of the comics too.
Yes, I would go on the stairs of my parents' house on the top stairs. I'd be pulling that lever on it, and just let him go. It goes over the stairs.
Right. See, I had Captain Action, so I could turn him into the Green Hornet, Spider-Man, Captain America, Lone Ranger. It was so much fun. I remember when I was playing superheroes with my friends in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm going to be Superman. I'm going to be Batman. I was like, I'm going to be Captain Action because I could be everybody, man. And they were like, that's not fair.
That's awesome. I'm going to beat all you guys. I'm Captain Action.
Yeah.
But that's what this hobby's about, right? Remembering what we used to do as kids, right? It brings us as adults back to childhood, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting older, and I don't feel it because of the hobby.
No.
I just got a cool T-shirt that says, "It's weird being the same age as these old people."
Yeah.
Steve,
do you get to go to conventions or shows anymore, or no?
Sure, I'll be in Seattle with Comiclink a week from yesterday. So if y'all want to, anybody who's watching this and is going to go to Seattle, I'd love to meet you, talk comics, even if you don't have anything to consign. I just love meeting hobbyists. The weekend after that, Josh Enton and George Alfonso are putting on a real small collector-friendly show. No Funkos, no nothing, just comics and comic art. And that's in Miami. So I'll drive the 3 hours. Walk the floor, talk to people, be a hobbyist. I mean, if I run into somebody who wants to consign, of course, I'll take them in, but it's just to support people. We have to support each other in this hobby, the good guys. We need to do that. Without that, we're in trouble. It's one of the reasons I'm on the board of the Hero Initiative. A lot of these guys and girls didn't earn any real money. No. And now they need medical, they need housing, they need food. It's so important. And it would be a shame to let go of the hobbyists and the creators who came before us. We need to, pay the respect, to Bob Overstreet, Jerry Wiest, all these people who were innovators, right? Bill Joe White. I mean,
I think the two guys who got screwed the most is Siegel and Schuster. What happened to them?
My good friend. Well, he's passed. Neil Adams. He championed for this, worked his ass off. And got them something.
Something. I know.
It is a shame.
It is.
But it was work for hire back then.
I know.
And the rules were different.
Sure.
And the comic books weren't selling, they weren't selling comic books to sell comic books. They were selling comic books to sell ads. So the story didn't mean as much to the publishers and to the people who were selling them as much as the ads and the cover to get you to pick that up. To look at the ads. I mean, heck, I bought Sea Monkeys when I was a kid, and then it was Rhinestone. I'm like, what's happened?
Steve, is there a website or a link that I could put on the channel right now to if people want to go check out the Hero Initiative?
Oh, sure. It's heroinitiative.org.
Okay. Go ahead, Errol. Do you have a question or something you wanted to say?
For a long time.
Yeah. Jim McLaughlin helped put that together with Mark Alessi, and Mark Alessi's gone. He owned CrossJet, but they were at a baseball game, and there is something, I don't know enough about it. I'm not a sports guy, but they were talking about how there's a fund for older players. And they said, why don't we have this for comics?
Smart.
And they put it
Yeah.
together. And, you know, Walt Simonson's on the board. And he's such a nice guy.
Oh, wow.
He just had all these comics stolen from him. Oh,
Yeah.
terrible. I've been trying to
Wow.
help him get it back. But we haven't been able to find them.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, unbelievable people in our hobby. And the people who aren't on the board, like Nick Barucci at Dynamic, you know, he helps us.
Nick's a great guy. I follow him on
yeah.
Instagram. He does so many great things.
Nice.
Yeah, Nicky always brings up the fact that when he was younger, he wasn't making any money until I walked into the room, and then he'd make, you know, good money because he was just selling, you know, comic books and stuff. He wasn't even into art then. It was crazy. Now he's like, you know, big into art, but he's such a great guy. He's so
phenomenal
good for our
guy.
hobby. Yeah.
One of the last times I did a live show, he did like a crazy super chat, and we donated it to one of his favorite charities. I don't remember what it was, but he was such a great guy.
He is. He's a very good friend and our true hobbyist. Somebody, you know, that we should all, you know, respect.
You know what's funny is when I was reading a book from him, it was a Marvel book. He was like a paperback. It was on Jack Kirby, and it was a part in the book kind of really stunned me. He was driving in the car with one of his friends at the time, and he was passing by a Toys R Us store. And the guy said to Jack, he goes, "Would you want to come inside here with me?" He goes, "No, I don't want to." Because it just, when he saw the Marvel, like the characters inside there, it just kind of like I can't speak for the man himself, you know, God bless the guy, but it must have enraged him because, you know, to see all the characters that, you know, he co-created.
Yeah, Jack got a raw deal. I mean,
yeah,
you know, it's tough. You know, but once again, it goes back to the time that it was.
I know.
So, you know, these guys were really happy to have a job, right? And doing something they liked. I was dealing with Don Perlin, who, you know, he's a great artist. You know, I mean, Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, you know, Moon Knight. You know, it's awesome. But I was helping him sell his art years ago, and he was telling me this great story about working the bullpen. He said that he worked with an eraser and a pencil at first before the inker would come on. Yeah. And he'd get it, you know, just right. Well, he was looking over at John Buscema, and he noticed after a while John never used an eraser. And he said, "Hey, John, you know, how come you don't, you know, change things a little or erase certain things?" He goes, "They don't pay me to erase. They pay me to draw." Incredible, right?
That's a good way of looking at it. Wow. Right. That's really smart.
So I would be remiss without asking you this, because Errol has been hounding me about it. So everyone out there who wants to, I don't know if you even know about this, but Errol talks about it all the time, is what is the dentist copy of Action Comics 1?
Oh man, I think I was the last person to see it before he put it away in '97.
Wow.
And it was stunning. I mean, you know, there's rumors out there. It's only a 9.0, only a 9.2. You know what? No way, man. Right?
Yeah.
There was a little writing in the A of Action 1 that says church. It is so cool.
Church copy, really?
And it's white pages. I mean, you know, not that fake white pages that they're doing now with the dyeing of the pages or lightening of the pages.
Blue light and stuff, yeah.
And now, is this a raw copy or a graded copy?
Raw. He doesn't grade anything unless he was going to sell something. He's a good friend. He's been very good for the hobby. His Superman Batman collection is the best in the world.
Wow.
You can't imagine what he has. I mean, he has 2 Batmobiles, one from the movie, one from the TV show. He has Chris Reeves' costume. I mean, he's got every piece of memorabilia.
Wow.
It's like and he loves it so much. He's a
Yeah.
true hobbyist,
Yeah.
and he got his son into comics. Now his son is collecting comics, and
Wow.
and they're very smart people, but they love the hobby.
Did he ever tell you, Steve, how he acquired that Action One? How did it come into his hands? Did he ever tell you that?
John Snyder brokered it through Rosansky.
Oh, Rosansky. Wow.
I
Okay.
think it was $10,000.
Oh, oh,
So
what
what would
year
a
is that
nine
about? The
what
70s?
would a 9.0 go for now in this market?
oh, 5, 6, 7. Who knows?
I would think it'd be
Yeah, I
more
mean,
than that.
I think that the church copy could hit
Oh,
an easy 8 million.
and this
Um,
copy, Steve, was like a 9.4, so 2. It would be
Yeah,
higher.
it's like 9.4, 9.6. It's
Oh my
beautiful.
God.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, his collection's beautiful. It's crazy.
Well,
I once had somebody who offered him crazy money for those for the Action One and the Allentown 27,
oh,
and he turned it down. And I said, "Look, we're friends. Do you mind if I ask?"
yeah.
He said, "I would just want to buy it back and have to pay more."
But that's when you know someone absolutely loves collecting comics and the books that he owns. I mean, that's what.
Yes.
Why would you ever give up that book unless you absolutely needed the money? You couldn't.
Yes.
You pass it down especially if he has kids.
Exactly. I mean, Steve Jeppy is the same way. He's floated
Yeah.
this hobby for so long, done so much. People forget. A wonderful man, but you got to see him look at a comic book. It's like, all of us at 14.
Yeah.
This guy is, created everything.
You think the dentist copies, Steve, is going to be ever be sold in the market? Like, do you ever think it would be, or just it's going to be?
Who knows? I mean, I've never asked him that question.
Yeah.
It's none of my business.
Because if it would be you'd be going, that'd be the biggest book of all. Like.
Yeah, but he doesn't have an ego where the books make his life.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, who's whatever is biggest, right?
Who's bigger than I know.
He doesn't care about that. He cared about having the best copy.
As soon as Steve said, but then he'd have to buy it back for more money, I knew it's never going anywhere. It means too much to him. Maybe if he passes it along and his children don't have that same affliction, then maybe, but I wouldn't. I especially if I loved that book as much as he says he loves it, I would never.
Well, I sold my Action One, my first one that I ever had, because the profit in 16 hours was crazy. I made I think 20,000 holding it one day back in the 80s. And I couldn't wrap my head around not taking that kind of money.
Yeah, but
then of course I had to buy another one, right?
Yeah.
And then my daughter was born and I was out of work.
Yeah.
So I sold it. But if it wasn't, for circumstances, I would have still had that first Action One until, of course, I sold my collection before I started being the primary grader at CGC.
Yeah.
Do you ever regret selling any of those books?
No, I always looking back in kindness. I mean, I've made money. I took care of my family. I have great collectibles, but it's family first, always. I wouldn't trade my wife Pam for anything. I wouldn't trade my kids for anything.
No,
right. I mean, if you need to sell a comic to take care of your family,
do it.
Friggin' do it, man.
Do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Some guys will just take it to the grave with them, and this is my life. Like Lawrence knows that everyone, like the people I've met, like I had a amazing Spider-Man, great collection I had, and it was white pages and that. And my main goal was to it's if it can fund me some other books or things like that, I'll do that. I have no regrets selling it. The things to me is I've had them. So it's not like someone says, well, I wish I had that book. I already had them. So to me, that craving is gone. You know what I mean? So it's not like I have to get it back. It's,
I've owned almost every book I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
and in high grade most of the time, which
Sure.
is crazy. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like I said, my more fun run, my adventure run, my Superman run. I mean, and that's after I sold off my Silver Age stuff because, you know, it was easy to get the Marvels and 908.
Sure.
You know, back then we called it VFNM,
Yeah.
but whatever. You know, sometimes, like I said, we evolve. So the Silver Age, which I loved for years and years and years, I graduated and wanted to check out the Golden Age and said the only way I could afford to do this is by letting go of the Silver Age.
Genesis those books to get to the Golden Age. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people though, especially there are guys and gals out there that have like crazy. The volume of their collection is like thousands and thousands and thousands of comics, and they can't let go of some of them to go after one or two bigger books.
Big ones,
Well, that's okay though, because they're
Yeah.
collecting the way they like and the way they can afford, right? You know, I never boohoo anybody's collecting habits unless, of course, you know, they're like, I'm going to buy it and light it on fire. Well, you know, be kind of bummed. But
well, seduction of the innocence, remember?
yeah, right. Well, I mean, the 50s wasn't very good for us.
No,
That idiot Dr. Wortham, and you know,
Yeah,
it's terrible.
I've burned everything. I know.
Unbelievable.
So we've been at this almost an hour, so I'm going to ask Carol if you have any other questions left for Steve. If not, Steve, I'm going to give you the open floor to talk about whatever you want before we go.
Question, Steve, is like when the grading companies like say CGC started, what, like, I know there's a Bob Overstreet price guide of say fine to very fine, near mint, and all that stuff. What conclusion did you guys have at the time to go, well, we'll do this by a point scale, like say 0.5, 1, 2, 2.5, like, like how does it all
see, this is a misconception, I think.
Yeah.
The first grading guide is 100-point scale.
Really? Okay.
Gary Carter
Okay.
worked with Bob Overstreet and other people.
Yeah.
But Gary was one of the smartest and passionate collectors. But because he was so smart, he understood the 100-point scale. I did not, right? It's either VF plus for me, or it's a VF minus, or it's a VF.
Yeah.
Right. And so Dan Kramer and I would sit next to each other during the grading sessions at Sotheby's and Christie's back in the day before certification. And I taught Dan how to grade, and he learned, of course, without me as well. But he would hand me the book after he graded it. I would hand it off to like Payette or somebody, right? And I turned to him and say, "What'd you grade that?" He said, "VF plus." I'm like, "Oh, me too." "What number did you give it?" He's like, "Oh, I gave it a 66." And I was like, "Oh, I gave it a 68." You know, like it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
So there, a dealer in New York got together with other people and showed them the grading scale. We added a 1.8 because he left good minus off, and I thought that was very important. It looks weird, seeing 1.8, but I think it was still important to have, you know, something between GVG.
So would a 66,
sorry, not GVG, fair to good.
so would a 66 equivalent to like say 6.5? Is that like that?
No, it was I think 8.5, right?
Okay,
66. Sorry, like that's
so
the fine plus. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you gave it 68, he gave it 66. So today's conclusion would be like say 6.5. Is that how it goes?
6.7 back then.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it was too complicated.
Yeah.
For novices, right? So we decided that, like, hey, you know, 10-point scale, people don't understand what so one of the reasons novices don't understand things is we say this book is in good condition or this book is in fine condition. Now, if I say to you, how's your day going? And you say fine, I say, what's wrong? If you say good, I go, awesome, right? Well, we've mixed it around. So it sounded weird. But look, Bob, started all this, way back, right?
Mm.
I mean, it was a labor of love for him.
Hmm.
And this was, the early 70s when, the Overstreet came out.
Mm-hmm.
Everything evolves. If you don't think it's going to evolve, then you're wrong. Nobody saw certification coming. Nobody saw the 100-point scale coming. Nobody saw pedigrees, being especially Silver Age. When Jerry Reese got the White Mountain collection, some collectors were like, they could only be Golden Age, man. You can't have a Silver Age collection, pedigree, I mean. But it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So on that, let me ask you a question. What do you think? Is there something on the horizon that hasn't come yet that you think may come, like the next part of all this?
I think it will evolve, but not the way anybody's expecting. It's like collectibles. What is a collectible? Something everybody has thrown out that some people held on to, right? I was talking to somebody years ago in an interview, and they said, "What should we look for?" I said, "I don't know. People are throwing out the first cell phones, and now they're selling for money." I was just picking something randomly out of the air. If I knew, I would have invested, right? I invested in some video games when that came out with certification. I did well. I'm working with the VHS market right now. I bought some. Maybe I'll do well. Maybe I won't. We'll see how it goes. I picked a lot of superhero stuff. So, I wanted to buy stuff I liked.
And I think that's what it comes back down to, right? You don't miss if you buy stuff you like.
No.
Yeah, and if I lose a little money, I had fun. I learned a new collectible. And Comiclink does sell VHS and does sell video games, coins. It's on Certified Link, which is cool. But my love is the comics and comic art. I think I sent you over one of the pieces of art I own, the Starman 7 cover. That's one of my favorite series ever. When I saw that cover, I had to buy it. It was my first piece of art that I ever bought for me.
You still have it?
I sent a picture over. I don't know if you have it or not.
You did. I thought I loaded it, but I guess I didn't.
That's all right. You can go to my CAF gallery on Comic Art Lands and check it out.
All right. Sorry about that, Steve. I thought I loaded it on here, but oh, wait. No, I thought I saw it too, but I'm going through the emails and I don't see it. So sorry about that, guys. I will share it another time. I'll put it up on Instagram if I find it.
Anybody can go on Grand Comic Database and look up the cover for Starman 7. But I collect a lot of the Tim Truman's art. He's become a friend. And he did the Grateful Dead Almanac art where he illustrated Robert Hunter's lyrics. And it's lyrics that made me into who I am today. Treat everybody well, respect, peace, all this stuff. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. So I called him one day and I was like, emailed him. And I was like, do you happen to have a piece of Grateful Dead art? I really would like it. And we became friends. We traded pictures back and forth of our kids. And then he did one of Standing on the Moon, which is one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs. And I used to sing my daughter to sleep to it. He actually painted my daughter into it.
No way.
It's wonderful. Yeah. I'll never sell that.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's cool.
So I collect a lot of the Grateful Dead art by Tim Truman and Rich Koslowski, who did Three Geeks, the amazing graphic novel. If you haven't read it, called Three Fingers, it is so cool.
Really? Okay.
Rich is brilliant. He hasn't really did a lot of work for Archie, but his stuff isn't super commercial. I mean, he did some stuff for Marvel Presents when it was kind of winding down. But, I've become friends like John K. Snyder III. I mean, this guy has become such a good friend, and I love his art. It's great.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. All right, so we're winding down, Steve. So I'm gonna give you the floor to say whatever you want before we end the show. Again, thank you for coming on.
Well, I mean, be good to each other. That's
Yep.
so important.
Mhm.
Once again, buy what you like and you can afford. And
Yes.
don't forget to bid on Comiclink. And
There you
if
go.
you have pieces of art or comics, please reach out to me and I will try to get you the top dollar you can get. I have,
Awesome.
you know, I just want people to be happy.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you have
I
it.
also,
Straight from his.
oh,
Go ahead.
I just also wanted to thank you very much for having me on and thank Errol for coming on. It's always good to talk to a new
No,
friend.
thank you, Steve. Yeah, like you've helped me out this for my collection wise, and I could say to people watching, Steve is an awesome man. Like, you know, he goes above and beyond to help you out. So he's one of the good people in this world that we need. You know what I mean? So I thank you for that.
Well, thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely.
And don't forget, you all can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm posting all the time and mostly about comics and comic art, but sometimes about my family. You know,
Mhm.
I
There
love
you
my
go.
family. Family first, comics second.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely, guys. Again, Steve, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Oh,
I can't
Lawrence, thank
express
you for having me on. I
uh,
really appreciate it. I'm humbled that you had me. Thank you.
before we came on, we were talking about how this is the number one thing with the whole comic, getting back into comics, especially for me, like meeting everybody, new people, people I've collected to and talked to in the past. This is why we do it, is to talk to each other, talk about stuff we like, that we have the similar interests in. So this means more to us than the actual books themselves, the
Yes,
community. So keep that in mind.
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, guys. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles. Steve Borock, Errol Molnar. Thank you for joining us. If you don't watch
Peace
it, check
all.
us out on the
You
rewind.
too, man. Yeah.
Thanks again, guys.